Hey there. Welcome back to the Camino Experience. Today we're going to be talking about what is stopping you from walking the Camino de Santiago. What is getting in the way? I suspect about three things that get in the way of us going after what we really want in life. And mm, yeah, I'm going to break it into three different videos over 3 weeks so that we can really spend some time with each of these. So, what we're looking for is what is holding you back? What is getting in the way of you having what you want in life? Maybe you've already committed and maybe it's slowing you down at this point. Maybe it's causing you stress. The enormity of what you're taking on feels just stressful. Maybe it's simply making the experience less joyful. Well, what are those three things? Well, the three things that I see are money, time, and fear. That's what holds us back from anything we really want to go after. Hi, I'm Nancy. I'm the voice of the You on the Camino de Santiago podcast, and I help pilgrims make their dream of walking the Camino a reality. I've been walking the Camino for quite a while. My first walk was in 2005. So that's 17 years ago. Time flies, doesn't it? Oh my goodness. Anyway, I've been going most years twice a year to walk all or part of the Camino Frances. And I have started in Saint Jean Pied du Port 17 times, 13 leading groups, and 4 times on my own. So I'm really good at making this happen. And I want to share some things with you today that maybe will push your dream into the reality category, whether that's the Camino or something else. These tips work for everything. So, I'm going to start with what may be the biggest for some of us, and that is money. I know there's been times over the year where money was a big issue for me in going after my dreams. And so, I'm going to share a couple of my own personal stories and then some tips, like I said, some real tactical things that you can do. Now, what if money's not your issue? That's cool. That is fantastic. So, this might not be for you. So, instead, if you know someone who wants to go after a big dream, but maybe they don't have the funds for it, share this video with them, pass it on. Also, I want to be sure to mention um, click on follow. You know, Facebook has a couple of ways for us to keep track of what's going on. So, one is to like the page, but the better one is to follow this page. And that way, when I go live or when I announce a live event, you'll know about it ahead of time. Okay, so do that one, please. Now, at the end of this video, I'm going to have something for you, and it is something I just put together and published. It's the Camino Planning Roadmap, and I'll tell you more about that at the end. Okay, so let's see. In this video, I'm going to talk about 2 ways to make the finances work, plus 4 steps for one of those. Okay, I've got some really good stuff for you here. So, the first thing to look at are those 2 ways to make this happen. So, you can either have the trip cost less, or you can get more money to make it be the trip that you want it to be. Well, it's going to be the trip you want no matter what, because you're going to go after it. I just know you're going to have the Camino experience that you are after. So here's the thing about the Camino, and this is when I talk about have your trip cost less than you might expect. If you put up a post on Facebook in one of the Camino groups, which has been done 100 times or more, how much does it cost to walk the Camino? If 30 people answer, you're going to get 40 different responses because there's so many different ways to crack this nut, so many different ways to budget for the Camino. But what I want you to know is that it is possible to walk the Camino on a small budget. What do I mean by small? I mean 30 euros a day. So in my currency, that would be about $33 a day. Now, that's not the way that I do it these days because I am willing to spend a little bit more to have a more comfortable experience. But my first Camino was on that budget of 30 euros a day. Here's how you do it. You may know about the pilgrims hostels or the albergues. Now, if you're listening to this, and you have stayed in albergues, would you put a comment? Just I want to know who's out there listening to this. Put a note in the comments and just say albergues, yes, if you're an albergue person. So the pilgrim hostels, those are the least expensive way to do this. Albergues cost somewhere between 5 to 20 euros a night, and the prices range almost without any logic, to be honest with you. But generally, the lower priced albergues will either be 5, 6, 7 euros for a bed and a shower, and those will be in the municipal or the parochial, church run albergues. Now, there's also something called donativo, which is pay by donation. And it's really important to note that donation does not mean free. So if you're on the low budget plan and you cannot pay 10 euros, 12 euros, and you choose to stay at the donativos, you are the one those are there for. And you want to pay what you can. Always something, just to show your gratitude for staying there. So albergues, that's one of the best ways to lower your costs on the Camino. The other way to lower your costs is to cook your own meals and to picnic. See, there are restaurants and bars that serve meals all along the Camino, and you could go and eat there. You could drop 10, 15, 20 euros for every meal, or you can go to the grocery store, buy your groceries, and picnic or cook your own meals in the albergue kitchen. That's how you get it down to 30 euros a day. Imagine. Can you imagine a month or more in Europe on 30 euros a day? Suddenly it becomes so possible. Well, here's something else you can do, and that is to keep your other costs low. So some people, like myself, will use the luggage transport services to move their luggage or their backpack along on the trail. You can do that. It'll cost you 5 to 8 euros a day. You don't want to pay that? Carry your own backpack, and that costs nothing. The other thing to cut your costs on the Camino would be to not take buses or taxis if you need to jump ahead. Make sure you have the time, which we'll talk about next time. Make sure you have the time to be able to walk the Camino, walk every step, and then your expenses stay low. And then the other way is, as you're getting ready, because you do have some expenses to get ready for this, is to ask around and see if you have friends who have equipment or gear that you can borrow, like trekking poles, like a backpack. And then you can also do thrift store shopping to find your clothing for the Camino. Also, you can set up alerts online for low price flights and let them tell you when the flights go on sale. So there's lots of tips. And when you walk the Camino, you're going to find yourself fine-tuning things. You're going to find yourself finding ways to make it work for you. Okay, so that's number one, is to lower your overall expenses for the trip and just go on the budget that you have. If you have a budget of 30 euros a day, it's totally possible. In case you didn't do the math, that's less than 1,000 euros for a month in Europe. Okay, so that's one way. So here's the other way, and this is actually my favorite and the one that I've been practicing for a couple decades now, and that is to get more money for the trip. So that is, I do my work ahead of time once I know I want to go on a trip to get the money together. Now, I want to tell you my personal story. This is one of my favorite stories, and it's not specifically a Camino story, but I didn't know it at the time, but it set the stage for my 17 years on the Camino and how I made that happen. So here's what happened. In 1996, shortly before Christmas, I was at the age of 31. Okay, now I know that not all of you are in your early 30s who are listening to this, but I still do this. So I want to mention that no matter what age you are, if you want to get more money lined up for your trip, I'm going to share this story and see what you think about it. Okay. So in 1996, the week before Christmas, I was visiting a friend in California. I happened to be living in Florida at the time. And I went to California, was visiting this friend, and I was at this point in my life where I had no idea what I wanted to do. You know, do you ever have that? Have you ever had that moment when you realize, oh man, I'm an adult. There should be something to this. There must be something I'm supposed to be doing. Well, I hadn't found it. I hadn't found anything that just I was so satisfied with, I thought I'd never stop doing it. So I was talking with this friend and I said, I'm kind of at that point in my life where I think I'd like to get rid of everything I own and go travel and just go out into the world. It's a great fantasy. So, okay, yeah, that's good. No problem. That was the week before Christmas. I went back to Florida, and on Christmas Eve, I got together with another group of friends for dinner. And as we're sitting around that table, the guy sitting across from me, his name was Mark, said, hey, everybody, listen, I have this idea. I am going to get around, and I am going to get an around the world flight ticket, and I'm going to go travel the world for a year. Would anybody like to go with me? My heart skipped a beat. And I am not kidding you. I literally raised my hand. I didn't say anything. I raised my hand. Okay. The next day I was on the phone with Mark figuring out how to do this. And here's why I had to figure out how to do this. At that time, I had $8,000 in debt, credit card debt, and no savings account. Not a good position to go take a year off from work and go travel the world. So the thing to know about Mark is he had retired at the age of 45 as a millionaire after launching a successful business. That was not me at the time. So Mark sat down with me on the phone and he counseled me. He coached me. I didn't know what coaching was at the time, but he coached me on how to make this happen. See, I had a decent salary, but I had no money in the bank. And I wanted this dream. I wanted it so badly. So now I'm wondering, anyone listening, are you in a similar position? Are you thinking, I want to walk the Camino, but I don't have the money for it. I want this dream and I want it badly, but how do I make it happen? Okay, well, your circumstances might be different than mine, but I'm going to tell you what happened. So at the point I made the decision to go, I had $8,000 in debt and no money in the bank. 9 months later, I had no debt and $10,000 in the bank. So I'm going to tell you how I did that. Now, your circumstances might be completely different. And it's not about the circumstances today. It's about what you want and what you're going to go after. So I'm going to share the 4 things that I did. The first thing I did was I set a date. Well, I didn't set the date. I latched onto Mark's date. So Mark's date was set for September 1997. And I said, I'm going. I don't know what this is going to take, but I'm going. So he coached me. So here's the thing about getting a date. First of all, it gives you something to aim for. It gives you a just a flag in the ground or a line on the whatever you want to, whatever metaphor, analogy you want to use. It gives you something to aim for. And the thing is, maybe you'll make it, maybe you won't. But if you don't set a date, no matter how tentative, if it's 2 years away, if it's 6 months away, if you don't set a date, you know when you're going to do it? Never. So the date was super important. Here's the other thing. I love this. I don't know if it's a proverb or a parable or what it is, but it's a story of the young boy who wants to get over the wall to go run in the field on the other side of the wall. And so what he does is he throws his hat over the wall. Well, once your hat's over the wall, you got to go over the wall. So that's what setting a date is throwing your hat over the wall and knowing you're going to get over that wall somehow. Okay, so here's the second thing that Mark coached me on, and that was to lower my expenses. Period. Not negotiable. Lower my expenses. Stop spending money on things that were not this trip. Okay, so I know I'm putting money in the bank for this trip. Stop spending money on everything that's not this trip. So I started weighing every expense. Do I want this? Or do I want to have it when I'm on this around the world trip? I also found ways to spend time with friends that didn't cost money. See, I love going out. I love happy hour. I love meeting friends for coffee. I love all that stuff. But instead, I started to find ways to do things for free and spend time with people that way. The third thing that I did later, not this first trip, but later, as I got creative on how to live and how to structure my life. One of those is I started working at hostels in the United States. And the two hostels that I worked at gave free housing. So, what's your biggest monthly expense? Mine was rent. Living and working someplace that provided housing got rid of that for me. Okay, so that's another way. Now, here's your next step, and that is to tell everyone. Tell everyone what you're planning to do, and here's why. When you tell everyone, resources start to show up that you did not even know existed. Let me tell you what happened. So I started telling everybody, and one of the things I knew I needed to do was get rid of my rent. Now, I wasn't paying in modern day terms, it wasn't very much, but it was a good amount of rent for me. I think it was $650 a month for my sweet little apartment in Florida. And so I started telling people, and I had a friend who had a house in the next county north. And she said, well, I've got this in-law apartment above the garage. Do you want to just live there until you go on your trip? And I was floored for a couple reasons. One is this was a custom home, beautiful, magnificent. It felt like a resort, and it was her refuge and sanctuary. And I got to live in that beautiful space. The other thing about it is she wouldn't take any rent. She wouldn't take any money for me to live there. So I lived there for 8 months without my monthly rent payment. Do you want to know where that $650 went every month? Right into my travel fund. The other thing that happened is another friend said, hey, I have a friend who's got a car that they want to get rid of. It needs one repair that'll cost you about $75. And if you'll pay for that one repair, the car is yours for free. Okay. At the time, I had a car payment. So what I did was I asked another friend to help me, and he took me to a dealership, and we sold my car back to the dealership, and I broke even on the car loan. Who does that without trading in or without getting a new car? So I got rid of my car. I got a free car. I got free rent. Now, the only reason this happened is because I told people what I was doing, and I was so committed to doing it that things started to line up. See, there's something that goes on beyond us that orchestrates things and that makes things happen. Wasn't me. I just had a dream and a commitment to my dream, and things started happening. Okay, here's the fourth thing. So what do we have so far? We've got set a date, lower your expenses, and tell everyone. Oh, wait, one more thing about tell everyone. There were a few people I didn't tell, and that was my employer and my coworkers, because I was going to be quitting my job when I left, but I'll talk about that next week. Okay, the fourth one is to increase your income. This is so important because you're going to need more money for what you're going to do, right? All right, so what I did was I increased my income. How'd I do it? Well, for one, and this was with Mark's coaching, I sold stuff. Anything I could sell, I sold. Got a little bit of extra money. It wasn't a lot. Another thing you could do is get what's now called a side hustle. Side hustles weren't a thing back then, but find something that you can do, whether that's a service or a product that you can offer to people, and charge them for it. And every dime goes into your bank account. The other thing you can do is get another job if you're still working. I've done this. In fact, I'm going to tell you another story to support that. So in 2008, I was working at a hostel in California. I wasn't paying for rent. I went to walk the Camino for just a short bit. It was more like a vacation than a pilgrimage, but I walked the Camino for 2.5 weeks. And when I got done, I said, you know what? I need to take another year off. I need another freedom trip, a trip where there's no end date until I'm ready for it to have an end date. And so I went back home and I got a second job, laser focused on cutting expenses everybody already knew I loved the Camino and wanted to go back. So I told everybody, and they knew that I was only spending my money on filling my bank account. So I got a second job. And as a barista, I'm not a great barista, but I did get free coffee, so I wasn't that mad. So what I did was, excuse me, what I did was every day after my shift, when we emptied the tip jar, I walked down the street to the bank and put that money into the bank account that I had set aside, laser focused on saving money. Okay, so those are my 4 steps for you. Set a date, lower your expenses, tell everyone, and increase your income. And you will be walking the Camino before you know it. All right, so a couple of things for you. I said I've got something free for you, a gift for you, and that is my Camino Planning Roadmap. I've got a link for you in the notes so you can grab that. That puts you on my email list as well, so you'll get more stuff, more information from me. And I don't email, I don't fill your inbox. The first week you'll get a couple extras, and then it goes to weekly with Camino related information and tips. Okay, so that's that. Now, if you're already on my email list, you don't need to do this again because that roadmap's coming to you soon anyway. Okay, the other thing is if you are thinking about walking the Camino and you listen to this video and you go, oh, yeah, I want to do that. I can do that, but you're not sure. Maybe you want some assistance. You could go to my website and find out about joining one of my groups. And there is a fee to join one of my groups, but I work with you on how to make the finances happen for this trip, which means you're going to afford way more than the fee that I charge to join my groups. Okay, link for everything is in the description of this, and I'll see you over there because I know you're going to work this out. Thanks for stopping by today. La, la, la. I gotta figure out how to stop the video.